The worst thing I've ever heard a tourist do is watch YouTube at full volume while on the trip. Hold on, they're saying something about the giraffes now. Hey guys, if you write a nice comment under the latest video you get the chance to be shown in the next video. People of Reddit who have been in a coma for a long period of time. What news really shocked you when you found out what happened? That it isn't like you see in movies. Nothing happens when you're in a coma. Your brain just shuts off. You know when you're little and you stay the night at a friend's house? When you wake up you can't remember where you're at and get nervous for a second until you remember? That's exactly what it feels like to wake up from a coma, but it never finally clicks. I woke up from a 2-month coma after a bad wreck where I broke my neck, hip, couldn't walk, etc. I could tell I was in the hospital, but didn't know why or what happened. For some reason I thought I was 60 and I had been comatose for 30 years. In fact I had been in a coma for 2 months and was in my late 20s. Doctors are amazed I survived a 2-month coma, which is very unlikely, so this may be the longest period of time you'll get a legit answer. But of course people always have stories that are like, my cousin was in a 3-year coma and said. However, it's insanely rare that people will wake up after even months. I'm an open book, so any other questions, ask. I woke up on carriage with some other guys, and one of them said to me, hey, you're finally awake. Does 3 weeks count as a long time? I was in a motorcycle accident, was out for 3 weeks, woke up as the person I'm today, not really as the person before, although I have a few of his memories. Found out that my hippocampus was damaged, so that accounted for the memory loss. I woke up remember a lot of school stuff and things I read before, but had a very hard time remembering / knowing people. Didn't totally recognize my dad, had no idea who my mom was. I was apparently dating a really pretty girl, but I have no idea who she was, no memory of her. We tried to make it work, but it was too weird. The old me was too different from the new me, and I felt no connection to her. I did become really good at philosophy and logic after I woke up, ended up going to college to study it, got a year left before I can lecture in it as well, so I guess that's a plus. It's still weird, sometimes people will approach me and greet me, they know so much about me, but I have no idea who they are. I usually have to explain to them what happened, and things get a little weird sometimes, but usually end up making / remaking a friend. Edit. Good lord, this blew up. I'm going through all of the replies now, trying to reply to everyone in a timely manner. My grandpa's biggest shock waking from a coma was the news he wasn't in Spain. He was hit by a car near his house, England, and a lot of the nurses in it were Spanish, and he caught their accent, and thinks they sometimes spoke to each other in Spanish. They aren't meant to, we don't care. He had excellent care, and maybe when he started opening his eyes briefly he saw their skin tone. He couldn't understand how he had got to Spain. When he was coming around he was getting distressed. We kept telling him he was okay. He was in hospital and the tube was helping him breathe. We forgot to share the news you have not left the country. He was also shocked to find his feet hadn't been amputated. His feet and ankles weren't injured, about the only bit of him which wasn't, but somehow in the coma he thought they were. When fully conscious he was shocked at the football results. You won't find many, if any, real replies to this. The truth is, people who have been in a coma for a long time wake up brain damaged. The trope of waking up after years of being in a coma and being okay is not something that happens in real life. Someone who has been in a coma for years will wake up a vegetable. I was in a coma for 2.5 months in 2015 when I was 27 following a serious car accident. When I woke up I still had a tracheotomy and couldn't speak. I don't remember a damn thing from the time I was in a coma, but what blew my mind is when I woke up my new boyfriend at the time was standing there with my parents and they were chatting to each other like they knew each other. I'm a super private and had made every effort for them to not even know of him, so I found this disturbing. I also had no recollection of the accident for months, and for a week or two after waking up I had to be retold where I was and what had happened every time I dozed off and woke up. I had no idea where I was, and I thought I was 23, not 27 for months. I also had a really hard time recognizing faces. Like I would see people I knew that I knew, but I couldn't remember why or their names or anything. They would just look familiar. One time about a month after I had woken up, my parents took me in my hospital bed for a walk in the courtyard of the hospital. We passed a large mirror in the lobby and I freaked out. I saw my reflection and I knew it was me because I recognized my parents pushing the bed, but I didn't recognize my own face. There were no injuries to my face or anything, I just didn't recognize myself. It also blew my mind that I had gone into the coma in late winter and there was quite a bit of snow on the ground, and when I woke up it was spring and there was no snow. I had a large window in my hospital room. The news that shocked me the most was the fact that my parents had gone in and packed up my entire apartment. Like I mentioned, I was super private and the idea that they went in there and boxed up all my stuff and gave up my lease was hard to grasp. Obviously it made sense, but I was troubled by it. Open to questions. Not coma, but an anesthesia experience. I remember waking up with a really hard erection. Tried standing up, almost fell over. The girl tried to catch me and I said, "I got this." Then I stumbled into the hallway and passed out. I used to be a cop, but I was shot on duty. The surgeon saved my life, but I slipped into a coma. When I woke up a few months later, my wife had dumped me on minimum care and took off to hook up with my old partner and had taken my son with her. I had to travel cross country to even find them. When I did, there was an altercation between me and my old partner that ended when my son shot him. I don't know if 6 months counts as a long time in this context, but that's about how long I was in a coma. The most shocking thing, naturally, was being told the date. The last date I remembered was sometime in September, and I was being told it was March of the following year. I was in denial of this for several months, to the point of refusing to believe it was my birthday in the spring, and insisting it must be Halloween, the only feasible holiday I could think of for roughly around the time I had been awake, based on my last date that I knew. So my family had to tell me the cake they brought me was to celebrate Halloween instead of my birthday, otherwise I would freak out on them. Complicating this was the fact I lost my sight in this ordeal, so this all seemed like some weird trippy dream for me that I could not wake up from. I couldn't tell you when it finally sunk in that the date was really 6 months beyond what I had remembered, but it was a trip all the same. Edit. I clarified the cake thing, as people were wondering how I could know it was a Halloween cake if I was blind. It was more about me insisting the cake was for celebrating Halloween and not my birthday, as I was stuck thinking it was October when it was really 6 months later. Was not for a long time. I was overdosed on Anesthesia after an ingrown toenail operation. I slept for over 24 hours. Was just gone. But as I first passed out in the way home from the operation, my parents decided to just carry me to my room and let me sleep. Came up and checked on me, as I seemed fine. They just let me be. Got drugged for the operation before lunch the first day. Fell asleep in the car home. Was gone that full day, till the next day late at night. So maybe 30 to 36 hours or so. But yeah. Waking up, not remembering anything, and thinking you just have been gone for like a few minutes. But it's dark when you wake up. And as you get downstairs they tell you you have been out for pretty much 2 days. Like you felt fine. But everything just felt wrong as well. Your body and mind is just confused. It was weird. Not something I hope to experience again. I was in a coma for 3 or 4ish days after an intentional odd on Ambien, Regulin, antidepressants mixed with some alcohol. I was more or less just unconscious, but I remember the first time I woke up, it was exactly like those movies, where you're flashing in and out and there are disembodied voices everywhere, and people working on you. It was very weird. I remember waking up a few times once I was out of critical condition, mainly to throw up from the narcan. Apparently, I had a seizure, I had cyanosis, blood was coming from my mouth and nose, my blood sugar dropped below survivable, and then shot up into diabetic coma zone after a glycerine shot. I was severely underweight, and I guess they didn't take that into account, and I had a breathing tube for most of the time. When I woke up, all I knew was that my throat was very sore and my entire body felt like actual chewed up garbage. Other than that, I had no clue what happened. I just remember taking everything and falling asleep, and that was it.